All right, folks, we are back. Welcome on back here. If you joined us from earlier this morning, but welcome aboard perhaps to any of our new attendees or new trial members joining us inside our live trading room here for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk workshop this December 5th. Still great to see all of us here back inside our live trading room. We got Eric, Hank, got Michael, got Roseanne, George, Richard, got Ravina, got Charles, John, Ray, Roger, Kathleen, got a pair of Alex P's, got Sopros, one of our new trial members joining us here, and a bunch more, of course. Just a full house once again this Tuesday morning. Great to have all of us back there, or otherwise just once again on YouTube, perhaps at Cyber Trading U. And perhaps those of us that are new here to the streams or inside our live trading room, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Josh Levitan. I'm Fausto Senior Instructor here at Cyber Trading U right there. Hey, if you're not subscribed yet, be a friend, tell a friend, just on YouTube, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, etc. on top. We go live every morning, but typically every Tuesday we hop on here during the late morning time, shortly after 11 a.m., do a live workshop, more Q&A based, and really breaking down the X's and O's, right? I mean, hey, even if you're not inside our live trading room, let's just say you're on your own and just kind of trading just solo. You know how hard it is to focus on more than one thing outside of just the position that you're in? If you're so focused on your position, you know how hard it is to focus on anything else. Let's say you get a phone call. Let's say you get a knock on the door. Let's say anything happens, right? Well, that's where I say inside our live trading room at 9:30 in the morning when the market opens, ding, 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 and we're on the mic doing the audio commentary, myself and Fausto, we're not teaching. We don't have the time to teach. We can't break down the X's and O's when the market is moving as quickly as it is. We're trading. We're trying to make intelligent decisions real time. Now we have a little bit better of a chance to kind of go back on, the chart from earlier, go back in hindsight from this morning and really put this under a microscope and go through the real X's and O's. So with that, actually, just as we do here every week in Traders Talk, we tend to focus on the stocks that are namely on our morning watch list right as the market's opening up. But I'd asked this poll question before we started, sent it out 20 minutes ago inside our live trading room. Before the market opened up this morning, which stock were you most interested in trading for the day? There's no curveball question behind that, folks. There's no second indirect question. Take that word for word. Before the market opened, what stock were you most interested in trading? Hey, that doesn't mean that you were trading pre-market. It means that going into the next 4.5 to 5 hours, what are you most looking forward to following? So we already answered. Looks like, most of us did say the CMND trade. And then shortly behind that, you had NEO, both of which were on the main list already. And then, hey, you got a bunch of us that are interested, although they weren't on the main list. They're definitely on our side list now pretty much every day, whether it's Riot or Mara, whether it's Coinbase, or even nowadays CLSK. We have been on pretty early here at Cyber Trading U. Obviously we had the large cap stocks that we could focus on. Personally, I missed out on Tesla after 10 a.m. Had a big pop in the market, really nice move. But personally, I missed out on Tesla. Meanwhile, students like Gary and I think John, or maybe it was Alex. It was Alex and Gary that both had the Tesla trade there together inside our live trading room. And then on top of that, hey, AMD, Apple, etc. So there was a lot to consider. But here inside our live trading room, not only do we have our meetings, we do the watch lists, but we teach you in class, hey, how do you prioritize everything that's out there to just a group of 2 stocks maybe, or maybe at most 3. And then from there, hey, where are the iceberg levels for the trades that you're looking at? Where are the key levels on the chart? So we'll get to NEO here in just a little bit. NIO, this was one that I took the time to plot and line up. I said this in the morning meeting if you were following along. I love NEO. Haven't traded it in a long time. It's been slow, stagnant, not worth the time. But coming off good earnings. They had good earnings. They, I think, issued guidance. So how could you not consider NIO heading into the open? It's relatively cheap. It has a great order book. Some might say it's even too liquid at times still. But it was coming off news, and we were hopeful for a better pop. We'll get to that one in just a moment. CLSK and Mara, says Alex P inside our live chat. We'll get to those as well in just a moment. But CMND, hey, you folks said here this was the one that the majority of us were interested in leading into the open. Rightfully so. Not only was it on our list, but let me ask us here really quick. I got to go through my P's and Q's. I got to go through my whole process here, cross my T's, dot my I's. It is. What's the trend of this stock going into the market open? Not only is the stock up percentage-wise, folks, But that's not the question I'm asking. What's the actual trend of this stock across the 30 minutes prior to the opening bell? What's the trend? The 30 minutes prior to the opening bell. I'm not trying to toss a curveball here at you again. You say up. If you want to say flat, looking at like from like 9:10 Eastern onward, more flat 20 minutes before. None of us are saying down, right? Just point being, that's the point. No one here in our chat, Margaret, Eric, Ravina, Danny, Larry, Alex, all of us here, none of us said down. So, hey, let me ask us, when a stock is more so on the upswing, what color are we seeing more on time and sales? We talked about this just all last week. Get my book map staged and ready here for this CMND trade just in a moment. I had it set for Neo and Mara, etc., but we'll get to this here first. So we're expecting green on time and sales, including trial members like Sopros here. Great to see, and absolutely, right? That's what we just teach in phase 1 of our stock course. All right, so notice at first, just before we even dig into the heat map, before we dig into level 4, generally speaking, $5 held as support. And, specifically, we'll go with like 492 as like a little chart bottom right there. After that initial pop, easy to say that like 492 is a pretty clear chart support. When you focus on volume, liquidity, focus on 50-cent levels, whole numbers for a cheapie like this. So for like a $4 or $5 stock, yeah, you're looking at like 5, 550, 6, etc. And the more it pushes up, then we'll continue. But yeah, I mean, you could just see here, first test, best test. We said that in pre-market. We were watching that live and said that. Well, the more times it does press up against it in a shorter concentration, as we always talk here in Traders Talk, that's your better move. Now, just to be very pristine and on top of this, we're not taking pre-market trades like after 9:10, 9:15 in the morning. If you think that's the first time I've said that here, wrong. We say that pretty much every week here. You want to get out of your pre-market trades by that time. I mean, if it's really pushing up, or if you're in from a sweet entry price and you're hanging, that's different. But I'm not trying to enter trades right before the open. I know one of our students, Chuck, got out on one of his trades. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, Chuck. It was like just a really clean exit. Maybe it was like 5 or 6 minutes before the opening bell. He still took the money and ran. You're not trying to get in positions around this time. Now, I will say, the more it presses up against 6 after the market opens, that is where I'm definitely looking for a better entry, a better reaction off that $6 price. Now, hey, when the market opens, what are we namely doing here? Grant, Eric, Alex, Michael, Ravina, Danny, all of our students in the phase 1 course, right at 9:30, are we jumping into trades right then and there? Nope. Alex and Margaret both saying wait 5 minutes. Danny saying watch only. Absolutely, my friends. Great answer. And hey, actually, let's just roll one question into another. In the time that we're waiting, is there something that we could be doing right at 9:30 or the first couple minutes after 9:30? Is there something that we could be plotting on our chart perhaps? We talked about this in class. There's something that pops up right at 9:30 pretty much for every single trade. Alex and Sam, who are here pretty much routinely every week, Ravina and Roger as well. Yeah, the opening bell print, the open price, right, when the market opens up for the stock. So let's actually just dig into Bookmap first. We'll go into like where the icebergs actually were. We said 50-cent levels, whole numbers, but those are assumed levels. Is there anything that could really dictate a clear support, clear resistance? And again, the keyword is clear, because you got a bunch of tiny that pops up and they disappear. Very local short-term ladders maybe, but that has no significance to me when it comes to creating a clear level to work off of. So, you got the pre-market high, which was holding pretty nicely after here. But as far as icebergs go, $5, again, that's a level already. Is there anything above here up top? Not really. Looking under size, there's nothing greater than 10,000 shares. There's no 5-digit, order size there. And even that wouldn't necessarily create a level. Here, well, hey, this actually did create the chart level that we saw just before. Look at this, right? We said this at 492, 15,000 shares that popped up on the ask here. It broke over that price over time. And hey, support or resistance should initially look to become support. And it did that. So this chart support at 492, 493 was actually created based off this sell order that was on the order book. So get a load of that. That's pretty interesting to see. Now, again, though, there wasn't anything that's on here otherwise that I would find interesting. It's really just what we saw already and the 50-cent level whole number plan. Now the market opens up. Let's take a look here because probably got to refilter my dots. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Take a look. All right. Is there anything? Wow. Oh, hold up. Need to go back a little bit more. A little bit more. There we go. Still, oh my goodness. There isn't anything over 20,000 shares that pops up here on this. Here we go. And this is the opening bell print. It's not large, but about 14,000 shares that pops up at the price 586. This is your opening bell print. Now, this is not too surprising. I mean, the smaller it gets, it definitely is more surprising. But for a stock like this that trades next to no volume on a day-to-day basis, I kid you not, we may have actually used this as an example just yesterday, or not yesterday, last week in Traders Talk, when it comes to like a stock that trades no volume. Look at this, 20,000 shares, 38,000 shares, 25,000 shares on this just given day. It's telling you that there's no one trading the stock on a routine basis. So normally for a much more liquid stock, you're going to see this dot be a lot larger. Either way, this does create a level to work off of. Look at the size of the orders on the buy and sell here, both. Nothing really that large. 5,000, 7,000, 6,700 here. So in the grand scheme of that, this 14,000 at 586 is actually still pretty significant. Let's just plot that there, and then we'll kind of peel back this and just show what happened, right? So we had our pop and drop. Now, after the first 5 minutes, what did happen, though? Well, it ended up popping off of 6, and although it broke under 6 here for a small bit, under and over. So in terms of just focusing in on the $6 price, you wait the first 3 to 5 minutes after the market opens, big swings. We're not trading there. Hey, we're not trading those giant wicks. But shortly after 9:35, you do want to consider your first entry. Hey, if you were able to get in right before this candle started or as it did, perhaps that could have led to the entry from 6. Otherwise, though, when it pulls back, yes, it breaks under the price. Well, it doesn't drop much lower. And then shortly after the next candle from there, it pops back up and it makes that at least better move at the time. One more little jolt up to try and break higher. Then it pulled back. Now, with that, let me just plot the opening bell print. That was that 14K transaction at 586. I'm not going to do this every time going forward, but what I will do here, since we came off our classes just this past week, let me just go back into the actual time and sales and just show you that actual transaction that popped up on the tape. It wasn't really like large as what we typically see. Let's see, is it going to show? Yeah, there we go. 14,000 at 586. So, hey, why is this so important, guys and gals? Well, it's to say that this ended up creating actually a better level than the $6 price. Captain hindsight here, but just to say, hey, this broke below 6, but why did it not break lower at the time? Well, because this was used as a complementary level of support. In fact, it was the better support to where it pushed back up again, right? So, hey, I bring this up for the reason, not just that it held there, but I got to ask for Ravina, Phil, Mark. I got a trio of Marks joining us here, and Sam and Danny and Margaret, John, all of us. Just simply put, what is like our whole mantra at Cyber Trading University? What's our whole mantra? What does Fausto teach in his like freebie webinars he does every week? It's obviously to, cut your losses. You want to set your stops tight. But generally speaking, what's our whole mantra here at Cyber Trading U? Well, I love learn before you earn. Great answer from Ravina inside our chat board. That gets full credit too. I love that. But otherwise, follow the money, follow the big money, right? Okay, well, hey, this did create a pretty strong level, and this isn't the first time we're having this conversation, is it? We do this every singular week here in Traders Talk, as well as, of course, in our main curriculum. Now, unfortunately, the same result happened over time, right? This thing tanked over time. Well, hey, let's ask. From 9:30 to the time 9:50. That's 20 minutes after the market opens up. 9:30 to 9:50 in the morning, that is. Those volume bars that you see, just the simple basic volume bars, are they increasing in size or are they decreasing in size? You tell me. They increasing in size or decreasing in size? Again, no curveball questions this episode, right? We got all just simple ones here, right? Decreasing. Consider that to be like having your foot taken off the gas pedal. Consider that to be like what happens when the fuel is running out in the gas tank. For a stock like CMND that popped up already, we're hopeful to see it go. Hey, what time is reversal time normally? Well, 10:15, 10:30. So as it's holding the opening print, popping back up, how could you not think, okay, well, they should definitely look to pop higher, especially after the crazy ass days that it's had the last week or so. Look at this candle back from Thursday, it was last week, I think. Bad drop, but if it could remain above those prices, maybe we could see another pop, the type of move that it had back in like mid-October. So you do want to be hopeful. You do want to say, hey, this is prime time here. Let's get higher lows. Let's get this to get halted even. Why not? What happens when it doesn't? What happens when you see a distinct drop off in the volume traded minute by minute by minute? And even though it picked up here a little bit, well, look at the candle. It's because it broke down. You saw more selling on that candle there. So you're really seeing a lack of upward momentum. And the end result is the same every time. Just a big drop. So do we want to be held liable? Do we want to get caught slipping? Do we want to not have your stop set? Do we want to just, only be optimistic and be hopeful? Oh, it's going to pop. No, what happens when the foot's taken off the gas pedal? That's where we got to see this thing begin to roll over or pull back harder at least. So I don't know, maybe this thing can pop back up over time, but until it at least reflips that 586 to $6 area into support, like it's both of these now. Both of these act as a range of resistance. And if it could blast above it and then hold above that as support, then there's a better chance to see this try and make the move we were hopeful to see earlier. That's all. Simple as that. So, that's the CMND move, folks. Just let me know if you have any follow-up questions on that one. I have some questions that came in from email and private chat just earlier. I don't want to skip those. We're going to get to those in just a bit. I do want to just jump to NEO next, NIO. So I took a loss on this earlier, and, hey, it is what it is. Just ended up. 1 second here. I don't know what happened here. My volume bar is just skewed out there suddenly. I don't know what the heck just happened there. Just one moment. That was very odd looking. I was just looking at my volume bar. It's like, whoa, that looks pretty different. There we go. Same result either way. Stock dropped and I took a loss. But why, how, what was the entry process? Well, again, you could just see here, it did pop at the open. But the first minute, I'm not jumping in. Trust me, if I, was going to jump in right there, then I'd advocate for you to jump in right there. And I didn't. So, at first it pulled back and this did become a little support where in hindsight, maybe I could have taken it right there. I still waited the first full 5 minutes. I'm holding myself, true to those rules. So I did not jump in right there, and I bought option calls on it compared to actually trading the equity. I loaded up on option calls, and then I got stopped out just probably about like 2 minutes afterwards. So I took the 750 calls, meaning that like they were in the money already. I was waiting for this to try and pop over like this little peak here, and I had a decent shot, nice little entry to begin. But as you could see, at least on this chart, I'll show Bookmap in a moment, but this didn't make the move up to $8. It didn't touch 8. It didn't kiss 8, didn't break over it. I was expecting it to. So you might ask, like, why did you not get out? Well, hey, once again, for Grant, Danny, Alex, Larry, Michael, Ravina, Kathleen, Leda, got all of us here joining us. Another Josh catchphrase. I got to do it here. I got to go through the greatest hits here every week. But when a stock breaks through a big level, what are we getting shortly after? What are we getting shortly after it breaks over a big resistance level? Even like this one, even like this, like popped over. But, from the time I jumped in, which was, we'll say in coordinates with the chart, around the price 776, 777, we're still expecting a big move shortly after. It is prime time trading, folks. We are expecting a run, a big pop up perhaps now. NEO beat earnings. They had guidance. So why not expect this to at least test 8? Give me the test. Give me the false breakout. And then maybe I'll sell, right? Didn't even give me that. So if you ask like, well, why'd you waste the profit like that? Well, I expected more. It wasn't greedy for me to think that way. It was very intelligent for me to think that way. But if you don't get what you want, then the same result happens and you have to get out either break even or you take a very small loss. So I got out. It was like a couple pennies, a few pennies under my entry on the premium price. It was like a 3-cent loss on the premium. So, that does count in as far as like saying like it was like a $40, $50 loss I took. But otherwise, look at what happened after. It bounced back up. I'm not even focused on that. Let's focus on the sharper drop off after. So I'm not trying to hold on to a losing trade or a stock that isn't going to make its big push. If you were with me in the morning meeting, just something I'll reiterate. I just briefly mentioned it before. It actually worked out here, but for these morning earnings, I don't know about you, but I've been noticing a lot of these companies that report their earnings in pre-market, unless if they're popping up 20%, 15%, they're not really holding too well. Like this was up 3%, 4% pre-market. That's not a whole lot for an earnings beat plus guidance. You know what I mean? You typically see better. So that was a red flag to me. Go back in the morning meeting. You'll hear me say that. I'm still hopeful. I told you that too. So I took the damn trade. Didn't give me what I wanted. Got stopped out. I didn't try it again after. When, it looks like it made a tiny bounce. I told you run for the hills after. And, for the most part, it was for the better to do that. Maybe you could have scalped it for a little trade there. And I think Chuck, one of our students, caught the stock here for like 28, 30 cents. So you could have had a bounce, but otherwise it didn't give you what you wanted after. And, there are other trades out there to take. That's it. As I spill water all over myself here. Damon saying, a great bugbear will eat your lunch. Well, yeah, take a look at what we had on, what was it, the crazy one, just to show for a second. NRSN from pre-market, right? This was up big off of some sort of, I think it was even like cocaine addiction drug news, which is, something you don't hear too frequent. Popped up pre-market, popped up after hours even last night. There's got to be more news out on this for the stock to be down 24% now. It's had a crazy move looking at the daily chart from like 50 or 70 cents up to $1.50. But truth be told, like we see that in one day. We see that in like 1 hour. So that's not all that impressive. Is there any other news out on this NRSN trade here? Yeah, I don't have any other headline aside from the one that came out just yesterday in the after hours, then reiterating it this morning in pre. So just another great example, Damon, right? The great bear bug will eat your lunch. Well, if you don't get out ahead of time on this type of trade, especially, I cannot stress this enough, in pre-market, right, where you can't set stops. So, you got to really make sure you're using a manual like exit, like just, use a limit order. You got to hit sell. You can't use market orders. You can't use stops, right, in pre-market. So look at this. This thing got crushed at the 8 o'clock move. That's just a very easy example to kind of illustrate there. All right, so I wanted to go over at least those two. The one that was the most popular answer, which was the CMND. Honestly, I wasn't as prepared to go over that right at the top. I was more looking at NEO. So we went through the one that you folks picked the most. Went through my NEO trade there. What else? We can go over Hood for a second. Then I want to dip into emails and questions. So, we always tell you, hey, not only should you look to prepare before the market opens and set your levels before the market opens, for the 2 or 3 stocks that you're inclined to follow. We also tell you to stick with the list. So, hey, CMND, NEO, both on the list. Boom. Now, though, again, Robinhood was a stock back from end of last week that we were calling out, and it popped a little here, moved up a little there. Wasn't the best, though. It was a little lackluster each of those days. I'll tell you, the more that it does move up over time, I'm certain that more people will catch on, that will make a better day trade move for us to capitalize on. So that's been the case with Robinhood. Back from last week, a couple moves here and there. Not the best day trades, but it's been a great swing. Well, hey, this was up a little bit pre-market. It didn't make the morning watch list per se, but otherwise I had my levels plotted on this one too. This is really just more about the $10 level. And on this trade, I ended up buying option calls on this as well. So notice that, well, let me zoom out. I don't know why I did that. After hours yesterday, it moved right up to $10. Touched it, kissed it right there. Perfect. Well, hey, the fact that it actually touched it and kissed it, there had to have been, even if it was a fractional amount, there had to have been at least some semblance of buying at that price. Okay, well, that buying plus the buying that we had here at 8 o'clock or shortly after, it touched 10 again, then pulled back. Well, again, the name of the game is not just nipping and gnawing at a level, but it's nipping and gnawing at it in a shorter time frame, a smaller concentration. So even here at the market open, after the first 5 minutes, it moved up, pop and drop. It was hands off there at the time. So now at this point, it pulls back and it begins to move back up towards 10. My eyes were on Neo during this consolidation. My eyes were on, I think, even Palantir, just moving around. And then on my book map, I'm moving on my book map. I turn back to Hood, and it's moving back up to $10. So I'm like, okay, well, here we go. This could be what I was looking for originally. The more times it tests that level in a shorter concentration, we should be getting that better move. So here, after the open, we had 169,000 shares that were roughly on the S there. So if that's not large, really, what is? So from there, it made the false breakout. Even again, on the next test of it, which was about 20 minutes after the fact, a little bit more, even like 25 minutes after. Well, again, a little nip and gnaw, pop and drop. But the more times it does it from here in a smaller concentration, that's where we're expecting that better, more reactionary move. Whether it's the ultimate head fake and it completely craps out the other way, or that hopeful, pop. So obviously, what side I was looking for here. And we saw the breakout, actually not only the breakout, but almost like immediately after it popped back up to 10 here. You had about 41,700 shares that joined the buy side, helping out on the bid, a little ladder effect popping in. And you could even see it again later on, basically the same order. They pulled, and then they ended up placing a little higher here. Hood over time continuing to squeeze up, right? So that's been the case throughout the morning on Robinhood, at least. Hey, if you weren't able to get this in time, no sweat. This is at least something I was personally more inclined to follow myself from yesterday, from last week. So I'm more familiar with it. I had it up on my book map, at least in this rotation that you see on the top. So I'm scanning through, right? I'm not able to catch every great move that pops. We said it before. For the pop that we had at 10 o'clock in the stock market, well, hey, Robinhood benefited off of it. Mara benefited off of it. That's a stock that I love. And I, wasn't able to jump in on that today because I was inclined to follow the others. Well, same to be said for Tesla. Students like Alex and Gary smashed it on this trade. I like Tesla, but as I turned over to it, it was already running up so fast and I didn't have my level set on Tesla. I don't have Tesla levels here right now, right? So if I don't have the answers to the test before it's given out to me, I'm not going to feel as confident to get 100. I'm not going to feel as confident to get a perfect score. And if you don't know what I mean by that, it's by saying preparation makes everything here. Well, I'll say this. The saying preparation makes perfection, right? I think that's the line. We're not trying to be perfect here, but preparation makes profits. Right? So if I don't have my levels set for Tesla, and if I'm not prepared to trade Tesla, then guess what? Me personally, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'll just move away to another trade, focus on a stock that maybe is slower moving, that I have a little bit more time to try and improvise and get my level straight for, or maybe go back to a stock that I was inclined to follow. Robinhood, a Neo, just something else that we plotted from pre-market perhaps. All right, so I wanted to at least dig into that there. Now, with that said, Robinhood across the remainder of the day, it's still kind of holding here a little bit. So if you want to just see what this looks like live right now on Bookmap, we could do that. Then I'll definitely jump to some emails and questions that came in already. So this ladder that popped up on the buy side. It actually got filled. It got broken through right here at 1028, 1029 roughly, the price. If there was so much selling there, then, why did it not tank? I mean, it dropped off like 20 cents, 18 cents, but bounced back up. So if there's supposedly that much bearish momentum there, then I'd like to think that it's either going to make a lower low, or maybe that wasn't necessarily bearish momentum, and perhaps we'll see it pop higher than over time. So, I would keep an eye there, and namely, like, also just kind of both of these prices. You have from the iceberg originally at like 1028, but also a little CVP level here. If it could just make a sharper pop over this too, was that like 1025, 1024 here? It's like getting pretty close. We're on a nice little trajectory right now. So over time, wouldn't shock me if this ends up breaking out again, the Robinhood trade. All right, so that was enough of my spiel. I want to get some questions and chats that were sent in from earlier. Actually, one from Eric. I want to get to this because I was going to go through email, and I just wanted to make sure I got to him before I forgot. So Eric had a good question. He showed me his book map. He showed me his heat map. I'm going to just show you what it looks like on mine. It's basically the same thing, Eric. It's the same thing. Eric uses, I believe, the Thinkorswim version of Bookmap, which is a great tool. And it showed exactly what I'll detail to you here. But we had a pretty good ladder that popped up. Nice ladder that started at the price 121. Then very distinctly, that order moves up in price as the stock does a few pennies, right? Actually, a decent move. From by the time that order showed, went from 121 up to a high of 132. That's a decent run up for a cheap stock, right? So Eric commented to me, just said, just wanted to show you this ladder that started at the price 121, pushed up until it broke resistance at 130. So the 130 part, unless if it's from the chart, let's just peel this back and see. As far as resistance goes, well, Eric is correct, because let's even dim the lights a little bit more here on this one, so it's not going to be as colorful, but you could see that there absolutely was a sell order there at 130. So it broke over it shortly after the market opened up, pulled back. Well, that's resistance again. So Eric is correct, 100% at 130 as resistance. And it broke over that price again. But, it's because of that break over 130 that Eric really thought that this was going to run from that point. So he just wanted me to go over that in Traders Talk a bit. So, yeah, definitely. So let's even peel this back further. Let's go back even one more, like real early in pre-market, Eric. So that iceberg that I showed at 130, that was from like after the market opened up. Right here, even more, about 46,000+ shares that were on the ask at 130. And again, this is in pre-market. So popped it there, popped it here even at the open. This is the next iceberg at 130. So it was breaking that there. So let's see what happens. This is, that was weird. So we see this break below 130, the price, at the time 945. 945. The next time that it moves up to that price is at 1019. So that's about 34 minutes, right? About 34 minutes in time in between level tests. Is that a little amount of time to you, or a lot of amount of time? And I want to ask that to everyone here. These are things that we just need to have in the back of our head just as we're looking at this move as it's going, right? Great ladder on the buy side. But is 34 minutes in between level tests, in between the price getting tested again, is that a lot of time to you or a small amount of time to you? Asking everybody. Eric, Alex, Michael, Kathleen, Bell, Phil, all saying, it's a lot. And, really, I don't want to give a fixed number on this, but let's just say I would consider even something around, let's just say around like 15, 20 minutes to still be a decent chunk of time. So 34 minutes, definitely, I'd feel. So that is where I'd say after this test, Eric, right here, Okay, well, if it breaks back above it coming up, this could be really good. If it could break back above it after this right here, that could be nice. Now, again, I'm going to show Robinhood one more time. Well, apples to oranges. Because, again, right here, 938, next test, 1005. Pretty much the same deal, right? But what happened from this test to these over time? That's what we're looking for. So HCDI, here we go. Where are we here, Eric? Right here, right? That was the 1019. So this could be a great move when it breaks over 130 on this area here. It's about maybe even this is still like tough. It's a little tough. It's about maybe really 10 minutes in between tests right here. This isn't a break over it, mind you, but this is a test. So from here, it fills the order. Let's say right where my cursor is your trigger to enter. Let's say you jump in right there. You wait it out a little bit more. You see the retests and the shorter concentration. Pops right there. You take it. Well, just like I preach on Neo, it's got to make that big move shortly after, especially with how many damn times this thing was testing 130. Holy smokes. Are you kidding me? This thing needs to rip and run. It better. It should. That's what we're expecting, especially right here, considering the amount of times it filled 130. So if it doesn't right there, then it's game over to me. To me, I would not be expecting any more. If we do get it later on, then hey, maybe I'll have time to react. But if it's not going to make that big move, like really here, it's like it definitely should make a big move then just the other way. So that's where you see a lot of these stocks go to crap and, they just totally pull back over time. Now, as far as the level, Eric couldn't have been any more head on with the level. So I want to really emphasize that to him. Like that was a clean looking level there. Kennedy, Josh speaking here. Yes, all of our traders talks are recorded. So we'll have this up on the student portal along with all of the others archived just probably in a number of hours, I'd say. Damon saying that is a lot of time for the sell and buyers to decide what the price should be. And you know what? I'm going to add on top of that, Damon, for day trading it is, right? For day trading, right? For intraday stock trading, getting in and out within the same day, that is a lot of time. So let's actually just dip through a couple of like from the hip examples, honestly, from the hip. Tesla. Okay, well, pretty clean breakout. It's easy to say that this popped with the market shortly after 10 a.m. But if this was such a strong level, then the same rules apply where the more times it tests that level in a shorter time frame, you're looking for that more reactionary move up. And hey, in the event where it blasts over a big level right away, it just pops it right away without much fight, like it does here at this $10 price level, like 240. Hey, real quick one, folks. Kennedy, Margaret, Damon, Barbara, Bell, all of us here. Resistance often becomes what once it gets broken through? Support. All right. So you know what? If this decides to pull back towards 140 240, I'm sorry, perhaps we could see support build there, right? If not there, then maybe like the lows here, a little structure building up there. That's something to focus on. All right. Really quick here. I just want to scroll up. There was a comment that I didn't ignore. I just want to make sure I got to it actually. So from Damon saying, you must always have a trade plan in place long before you place any trade from your watch list and stay the course. Very good point, Damon. And that's where I actually really quick, not to jump around as much, but to add on top of your comment, it's why we focus simply on trend right before the market opens up. Like what's the trend of the stock, the hour before 9:30, the 30 minutes before the opening bell. That plays a big part in my decision making of, okay, do I think it's going to really pop right away, or do I think there's going to be a little time? Like if a stock is up off of good news, but it's trending downward the hour before the open, well, it means like the sellers are dominating, I'd imagine. So in order for the bulls to fully regain control, it's probably going to take a little time, right? So, I know one of our traders here, I think it was the other day, asking like, is this a long or is this a short? They've been here for like a year at this point, going through. Focus on the trend first. Just respect the trend first. That's it, right? More than anything. If a stock is steady on the way down, you don't want to catch a falling knife, do you? So it goes back to, you don't want to buy the news. You can't just hope. So, just trend. Hey, adding on top of all that is very basic, but it's extremely important for decision making. Then he adds on top, let your trade plan be your guide and not your emotions, as this is your system-based trading plan. That's a great quote, Damon. Very nice. I like that one. All right, so let's get to some other questions that came in. That was the one that came in from private chat. Let's go through some that came in from email here. From Hank. There we go. Love the name, Hank. Got to say. Thanks for following up. I typically don't like to trade stocks below $5 because it's analogous to the Wild West, and things can turn at any instant for big losses when a huge block suddenly shows up for sale. Well, I definitely agree there, right? There's no disagreement with that. And, coming into CTU, if you do decide to follow those stocks, we encourage everyone to start off small, trading tiny share size, because you do need to acclimate yourself. So this is a blanket statement to everyone, not Hank, because trust me, in the first sentence, Hank, I could tell, understands. But this is no get-rich-quick scheme. We are not here to gamble, unless if you got, the IRS or the mob, 2-3 letter acronyms basically at your front door knocking. We got time. I think we got time here, you and I here, right? So, take things slow and steady. And that's if you do decide to trade the stocks that are $5 or below. They are pretty crazy at times. The one thing I would say with trading a less expensive stock is, it's the thing we say with everything, not just trend, but good liquidity. You got to make sure the stock has good volume on the order book. So one of my favorites, CLSK, I was a big fan of this back when it was a $4, $5, $6 stock, because although it was moving up, it had a penny spread. It had good volume on the order book here as you saw back then. So that made it a much more manageable stock. And that's something we would teach you in class, as far as, it's not just the price, it's the liquidity, the float. Hank saying, watching the trading room, I'm getting an idea of how you get an edge on the market, but wouldn't I have to stay glued to the screen? Not as much. It depends on what you consider perhaps to be glued to your screen. You don't need to be here all day, that's for sure. If you're at your desk at 8:30 in the morning, then I think that you have the chance to prep up and then trade the first 30 minutes or hour of the market open, and you're done by 10:30, right? And I know that because I do that myself. So, that's where I could just tell you, just otherwise, if you are there at your desk on time to prepare, and you are there, at least you're not pressured, you could take a step back and breathe and relax, then you're going to have the chance to at least follow the good momentum after 9:30, finish up around 10 or 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock, but you don't need to be at your desk all day. Now, as far as in a position, yes, if you're in a day trade, you want to make sure that you're at your desk, that you are in as much control of your position as you can be, right? Hank says, I like to set trades with stop losses that I change as they move up from day to day. I have a 7-figure retirement portfolio that I'm trying to grow. During the daytime, I have some business projects trying to pursue still. So being glued to the trading displays is not an option for me. So that will depend, I guess, on your schedule, right? Your day to day. Everyone's different. Everyone's different with their hours and then what they're doing. Especially if you have a lot of a lot of projects to work on, a lot of investments or projects otherwise that you got to focus around, then we're not going to have as much time to trade and just dilly-dally at our desk, right? So, if you are at your desk at 8:30, I think that you could finish up by 10, and that's with a good amount of time to prepare, not having your back against the wall. So we have some students, although I don't recommend it, that get to their desk at 9 o'clock Eastern time, giving themselves 30 minutes to prep. If you feel like you're not as pressured and you still have only 30 minutes, then, that's good for you, right? I recommend for everyone to be here with like an hour before the open. And then again, you don't need to be here all day. Certainly you could finish up by 10:30. All right. So if there were any other follow-ups on that question, Hank, please let me know on that. Definitely. From Damon says, make your money in the morning and then go to Disneyland. I agree. I'll tell you what, Damon wrote, agree. I don't agree with Disneyland. I'm not a roller coaster guy. If you want to know one fact about Josh here, not a roller coaster guy. This is my roller coaster. This is my roller coaster. I like at least being fixed in a seat and I still have emotions running wild compared to being on like a steel contraption 300 feet in the air going 120 miles. I'll pass on that. I'll pass on that there. All right, so folks, hey, let me know if there's any other questions that you got in regards to at least what Hank was talking about there in terms of just being at your desk, screen time, etc. I got a question from Sopros here, one of our new members, and saying, good morning. I saw TradeStation is used for scanning and charting. What software or platform is used for execution? Well, TradeStation, same. So for all my stock trades, at least, I'm taking on TradeStation. I have a separate account platform for options. This is just what is shown and demonstrated inside our live trading room. We have a partnership with TradeStation, but we have as many, if not more, students that use Thinkorswim right away. If you're on Thinkorswim, you're on a great platform. I wouldn't have said that 2 years ago. I wouldn't have. Why? Because they were pretty much great for options and they were great for charting. They weren't really great for day trading equities. Why? Because they didn't really have good data to use, enough buy sell data. Now they do. Now they got Bookmap. They got level 4 integrated onto their platform. So again, I bring this up not just for Sopros here, but for all of us, where if you're on Thinkorswim and if you got level 4, if you got Bookmap officially on Thinkorswim, you're in good hands. You're good to go. And same to be said, hey, if you're on other platforms, like if you're on Webull or eTrade or Fidelity, Active Trader Pro, that is, if you're on obviously Street Smart Edge with Schwab and Thinkorswim, obviously, but Interactive Brokers, all of those are great platforms for execution because they're direct access. So that's the biggest key. We teach that just in the phase 1 stock course, our introductory day trading course, just getting you set up. Obviously, just not everyone is going to be as inclined to be on the same platform. It has the same programs, has the same data, but, maybe a different feel. Maybe, one platform is a bit simpler compared to another. Maybe you've been on your platform for 30 years and you don't want to move. Hey, you don't need to, as long as it has the right programs and data to work with. So pretty much every platform that is direct access is good to go, like all of the larger, well-known brokerages platforms. Follow-up, though, from Sopro saying, how is Capital Market Elite Group CMEG for a small account? I don't have experience with CMEG, and I think CMEG, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I could be. Is that not just futures? Is that not just futures data, CMEG? I thought maybe I could be wrong on that. Hey, you could trade stocks on a smaller account here with us. I mean, price of the stock is going to play largely in part with what you do trade. But otherwise, though, you're going to need to be more disciplined with following where the iceberg levels are if you're on a smaller account, because you're restricted on the number of trades you may have, right? If you're doing options or futures, that's going to be different. But, that's just the difference there. And I could talk to you about that separately, Sopros, whether it be through email or chat, or otherwise perhaps even Fausto on a quick call. All right. All right, so got a couple more coming in here, folks. Got about 5 or 6 minutes before we wrap up. But question from Kathleen, one of our longtime students, asking, what is a good method for determining stops? So again, I umbrella comment just to everyone here, especially Kathleen, because she's a student. So we teach this in the phase 2 stock course. We did this most recently back in the September recordings. There's a class I teach called Setting Stops and Taking Profits. I encourage every one of our students there, gold, platinum, diamond, to go through that full 60-minute class. I got 5 minutes here. So, full 60-minute class on setting stops in the phase 2 stock course, the September recordings. We'll do that we'll do that coming up going into the beginning of the calendar year in January, that exact class. Now, to give you the efficient, quick answer. You always got to make sure you set it pretty tight below your entry level. If you're entering a trade, you should be entering it very tightly right above a big prominent level. And if we're getting a big move shortly after, then I'm not trying to set a wide stop, because we're either getting a big move in our direction or we're getting a big move not in our direction, right? And Kathleen knows that. I'm saying that to everyone out loud. So that's where generally you want to set a pretty tight stop in terms of like cents underneath your level. not from your entry price, mind you. So that should incentivize you, motivate you to try and enter a position much tighter to a big level than further away. So like at $10 here, if you had jumped in on the stock right at $10 here, well, ideally, I'm not trying to set a stop that's at like 984 here, 983. I'm not trying to do that. I think that's way too deep, way too wide. It's either going to make this big reactionary blast over 10 or it's going to hold resistance and flop, one or the other. So that doesn't mean I'm going to set a 1 cent stop. That's going to kill you on trades. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. And that still will happen no matter what, folks. So there's no flawless rule with setting a stop. Hey, if there was, I would not be here. Let me tell you that for a fact. And you wouldn't be here either. So that's where I'll tell you at least, hey, on this instance, as it breaks over 10, I took option calls on this. So the chart is a little different with the option. But ideally, like, let's not have it break lower than this pretty much. 995, it bottomed out on these two candles. If I jumped in on the stock at 1001, 1002 and set a stop at like 994, I don't find that to be extremely tight. I find that to be enough, though, to figure out we're either going to get this run or we're not, right? But again, like if you chase it and jump in at 1010, then based on your entry price, you're not going to feel as comfortable. You're going to want to set a tighter stop and make sure you get out if it breaks below that level. Because, hey, if it breaks below 10, or if it pulls back down to 10 here, and you enter at $10.10, down $100 on 1,000 shares before it even breaks the level. That's not good. So what happens if it does break the level, right? All right. Damon's saying the pattern day trade rule, the pesky pattern day trade rule, kicks in and prevents you from really day trading if you don't have at least 25,000 in your account. If you're trading stocks, that is correct. If you're trading options, you could day trade perfectly in option and futures too. But stocks, definitely, that's where you got to be much more disciplined with knowing the where part. It's not just the when, but it's the where. And it's not just the where, but it's also the when. It's both. So, the more that you're following us here, not just in our room, but more so entrenched in our classes, the phase 1 and 2 stock courses, which, by the way, phase 3, the advanced trading class with Fausto, should be coming up on Thursday, Friday this week for all of our students. So Fausto will be back in action probably tomorrow, but then we'll do the phase 3 advanced trading class come Thursday, Friday. All right, I am out of water. I'm pretty much out of time. We're going to finish up here in just a second here, everyone. Last email that came in here, I don't think is a question email. It's a technical email, and I think that student is already good to go. All right, so hey, folks, let me just check junk folder here lastly, see if there's any that got somehow weeded out in spam or junk folder, but I don't see that. I think that we are pretty much good to go for right now. Hey, for all of us on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc., keep in mind that we do these workshops every Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, namely hosted inside our live trading room. That is where you'll have access to all of the recordings in full, in order. So do two things if you can. First and foremost, if you're not subscribed just yet, be a friend, tell a friend. At Cyber Trading U is our social media handle, so make sure that you're followed there and caught up to date with all of our social media streams, knowing when we're going live, when we're not. If you have any other follow-up questions, though, feel free to shoot me over a quick email, and that goes across the board to all of our students, certainly. Lee, Michael, Sopros, Chuck, Margaret, Alex, etc. But Josh at ctutrading.com is the handle. Definitely let me know if there's any other questions that pop up over time here. We'll be back later on this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. Eastern for the afternoon meeting. I'll be back on myself, just recapping at least a few trades from earlier today and building up a new list. And then we'll go from there, folks. All right. I'll talk to everybody here pretty soon. Take care.